What if the most powerful thing you could do to influence someone was to stop trying to change them? That sounds counterintuitive, maybe even a little frustrating to hear. But stay with me, because what you're about to learn completely reframes the way you think about connection, persuasion, and why some people just seem to naturally draw others toward them without pressure, without manipulation, without forcing anything. This isn't about tricks. It's not about mirroring someone's body language or repeating their name 3 times in a conversation. What we're talking about is something deeper, something that actually lasts. It comes from the work of Alfred Adler, one of the most important psychologists of the 20th century, and honestly, one of the most underrated. His ideas quietly shaped everything from modern therapy to leadership coaching to the way the best managers in the world run their teams. And yet, most people have never really sat with his work. So let's do that today. Adler believed something radical for his time, that human beings are not driven by instinct or by the past. They are driven by a sense of purpose, by where they are going, and more than anything, by belonging, by the deep, aching need to feel like they matter to the people around them. And here's where influence begins. Not in what you say, not in how you present yourself, but in whether the other person feels, in your presence, that they genuinely matter. Let that sink in for a moment. Most of us approach influence backwards. We think about what we want the other person to do, what we need them to understand, how to frame our point so they'll agree. Adler would say, that's exactly the wrong starting place. The moment you make influence about you, you've already lost the thread. The first principle is this: encourage, don't evaluate. There's a difference between telling someone they did a good job and actually encouraging them. Encouragement, in Adler's framework, is not praise. Praise is conditional. It says you were good this time. Encouragement is unconditional. It says, I believe in your capacity. Regardless of the outcome, think about someone in your life who encouraged you in that way. A teacher, a parent, a friend who stuck with you through something hard and never once made you feel like their belief in you depended on your performance. Those people changed you. Not because they said the right words, because they created a space where you felt safe enough to grow. When you encourage someone in the Adlerian sense, you are not trying to motivate them. You are trying to remove the discouragement that is already in the way. Because Adler believed that most human problems, fear, aggression, withdrawal, people-pleasing are symptoms of one underlying thing: a feeling of not being enough, of being disconnected, of being fundamentally less than the people around you. And discouragement is contagious. You felt it. A meeting where the energy is low, where criticism is constant, where ideas get shot down before they breathe. Everyone shrinks. Now think of the opposite. A conversation where someone treats your half-formed thought like it has real potential. You expand. You contribute more. You feel, almost without realizing it, pulled toward that person. That's influence. That's the quiet kind that actually sticks. Now here's something even more counterintuitive. Adler believed that when people behave badly, when they're difficult, cold, aggressive, or passive, they are almost always acting out of a feeling of inferiority. Not arrogance, inferiority. The colleague who dismisses your ideas in front of the team is probably terrified of being dismissed himself. The friend who always one-ups your stories, running from the feeling that their own life doesn't measure up. Understanding this doesn't mean excusing the behavior. It means you stop taking it personally. And when you stop taking it personally, you stop reacting and you start responding. That shift alone changes the entire dynamic. This is Adlerian influence at its quietest, seeing through the behavior to the need underneath and addressing the need rather than fighting the behavior. Let's go a little deeper. Adler introduced a concept he called social interest Gemeinschaftsgefühl in German, which doesn't translate perfectly but means something like a feeling of community, of being genuinely invested in the well-being of others. He believed this was the measure of psychological health, not happiness, not success, not confidence. but the degree to which a person felt connected to others and genuinely cared about them. Here's what's fascinating about this for influence. People can sense social interest. They can sense when you're helping them because you actually care, versus when you're helping them because you want something in return. It's not always a conscious awareness. It's more like a gut feeling, a slight tension, a sense that the generosity has a price tag, even if no one's mentioned it. Adlerian influence asks you to check your motives. Not to judge yourself, just to be honest. Am I doing this because it genuinely serves this person? Or because I want them to like me, owe me, choose me? When the answer is honest and clean, when you're genuinely oriented toward their good, something opens. Trust forms in a way that cannot be manufactured. And that trust becomes the foundation of everything. Most influence fails not because of poor strategy, but because of impure intention. People feel it. They always feel it, eventually. So what does this look like in practice? Looks like asking questions and actually waiting for the answer. Not the polite half-listening where you're already forming your response. Actually waiting. Actually being curious about what they'll say next. Most people are starved for that. They're so used to conversations that are really just parallel monologues to people waiting for their turn that genuine curiosity feels remarkable, almost unusual. It makes people feel seen, and people will follow someone who sees them. It looks like separating the person from the problem. When you have a difficult conversation, when you need to address something that isn't working, you can focus entirely on the behavior or the situation without making it an indictment of who the person is. This isn't working, and here's why lands completely differently than you're not working. One opens a door, the other closes one, usually for good. It looks like allowing people to experience the natural consequences of their choices without rescuing them or punishing them. Adler was very clear on this. Real growth comes from experience, not from being told what to do. When you trust someone enough to let them find their own way, even if that way includes stumbling, you are giving them something most people never give: belief in their competence. And people rise to meet the belief others hold of them. There's a phrase that runs through Adlerian thought that I keep coming back to: courage to be imperfect. Adler believed that the pursuit of perfection, of being above everyone, beyond criticism, untouchable, was actually a defense against the terror of belonging, because belonging requires vulnerability. It requires letting people see you as you actually are, and that is scary. Deeply scary for most people. But here's what's interesting. When you model that courage, when you are visibly human, when you make mistakes in front of people and don't collapse from the shame of it, something shifts in the room. People relax. The pressure everyone has been carrying quietly, the pressure to perform, to appear confident, to have all the answers, releases just slightly. And in that release, connection happens. Influence happens. Not the influence of someone above you telling you what to think. The influence of someone beside you who makes you feel less alone. That is Adler's deepest gift, I think. Not a technique, not a framework. A way of being with people that says, you are enough as you are. You belong here, and your struggles make you human, not broken. If you carry that into your relationships, at work, at home, in passing conversations with strangers, the way people respond to you will change. Not because you've learned to push the right buttons, but because you've stopped pushing entirely and started creating space instead. And space, it turns out, is what people have been waiting for all along. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear this. Don't forget to like the video, and if you want more videos like this, make sure to subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.